Hello from Hyperledger Global Forum Dublin. I'm delighted to be joined by David Treat, Senior Managing Director at Accenture, but also Chair of the Hyperledger Board. Good afternoon, David.
Nice to be with you.
David, congratulations. What a conference. Amazing meet up the last couple of days.
It has been just an incredible energy. It's being able to get back together, having had a gap for 2 years due to COVID, and now be able to reacquaint physically and be face-to-face with folks is fantastic.
Now, David, I want to ask you kind of the Venn diagram of two things here. Your role at Accenture as Senior Managing Director is super, the projects and the client relationships you have there, but also the work that you have as Chair of the Hyperledger Board. So if we start the kind of day-to-day job, maybe share that with our audience. What do you get up to at Accenture, David?
I changed my job title just earlier this year. So I founded our blockchain business back in 2015. We then redesigned our whole approach to how we incubate new technologies and the innovation around it. And so actually folded in our extended reality practice and a quantum computing practice and managed them all together. And so what the change that we made 6 months or so ago was, of course, blockchain plus XR equals metaverse. And so in effect, I've had the teams next to each other and working with each other, and now we're more formalizing it. So I now officially lead what we're calling our Metaverse Continuum business group at Accenture, and of course, I've kept all of our blockchain practice together in that, because it is foundational to the next version of the digital world that we're building.
AKA the best job in the world.
I'm having a blast. Yes,
but I know we're going to touch on later and the continuing champion of Accenture with open source and what that means for Accenture strategy and the clients you work with. But now I want to turn, if I may, to your role the last 9 months as Chair of the Hyperledger Board. So first of all, congratulations.
Thank you.
You're getting everyone together. It's been amazing. I've got words written down here: collaboration, community, global, energy, all these amazing things coming about from your community. And maybe you could just share with us one or two items of the shared vision you have for the Hyperledger Foundation going forward.
So we are an incredibly active doer, hands-on keyboard community, creating the code bases that then will form the foundation for our digital world. And I think the mission and the results are just that. We really are being foundational for the next version of the digital world. And so what as a board we're really focused on is how do we support that? How do we create the frameworks and the structures and the community culture, enablement, principles, community feeling to be able to enable the convening of just these wildly powerful groups of deep technologists and engineers and developers, as well as the business leaders who are shaping the what of and the why of what we need from open source in this space. So I view our board's role really fundamentally as how do we serve this whole community to enable them to do what they do best, and really pleased to see how it's evolved. But we've got where we just had a meeting this afternoon where we're brainstorming all sorts of creative ways to foster even more collaboration.
And if there's one particular element of that structure, the strategy of governance and control, balanced with the freedom to create, that you'd like to share with our audience, that'd be great too, David.
I think it's I referenced it in my keynote a little bit. We've reached a stage now where we're very advanced with the ledgers that we're working with. We're quite advanced with the newly emerging components around interoperability or DevOps and the support for developers around application development. And so our collection of projects, more and more so, as we're doing work with clients, and I bring kind of an Accenture perspective into the answer, it's about the combinations. It's about how do we take the combinations of these projects in different patterns, to then deliver the real transformation. And so whatever we can do to continue the phenomenal work heads down within a project, we want to do. But I think the theme in the next period is going to be how do we get more collaboration between projects, and that doesn't mean a convergence. It doesn't mean we're folding projects in together. That could be something that gets considered, but the interrelationship. If you look at the suite of projects, they all stack together to ultimately enable a solution. how do we get those patterns and that collaboration going between projects?
And that was very evident, the announcement of Project Cacti today, and that interoperability is great. So I'd like to delve a little bit deeper about that interoperability and the impact that Hyperledger has on the enterprise, and maybe just talking about the adoption of Hyperledger within the enterprise would be great, please, David.
Yeah, so really the catalyst for our focus on interoperability, both as Hyperledger and as Accenture, started a few years ago when we sat down with clients, and too frequently the conversation got stuck on, well, I don't want to pick the wrong ledger. Yeah. If I pick the wrong ledger and I put
like a directional bet,
and I put significant business functions onto it, and I go too far down a path, and suddenly no one wants everyone has the visions of Betamax, and I don't want to anchor to the wrong thing, and that was unproductive. Right, because we as you said it in your opening, right, that I think no one views there's going to be one ledger to rule them all, and there's different needs in different contexts and different communities, and so we started to invest heavily into the technologies that would enable interoperability, and we're very proud of Cactus as having emerged somewhat organically from within Hyperledger, right? So we, Accenture and Fujitsu got together, going back to 2020, really started to create it, and so it was an organically grown project within it. And now very proud to have the IBM's contribution of Weaver to be able to mix into it, and that speaks to this whole notion of how do we look at the solution patterns and the combinations, but on the why. It is so important to not get stuck on the paralysis of if I pick the wrong ledger, I'm going to be in a bad place. Having really effective interoperability will now allow the clients not to get stuck. Our clients not to get stuck on that question. We help them pick the right combination of technologies for the right situation, but it also then further enables the innovation itself. Yeah. Because each project, each ledger-based project can focus on its unique characteristics and evolving and that ability to be agile and change over time and work, and they can do that with the confidence for their end users of. They're not, you don't have to redo it. A different ledger so the interoperability really, I think, is a catalyst for innovation. It's a catalyst for collaboration, and I think it's the nature of the digital world that we're going to have and that we're building towards is, very flexible, modular, agile components at all layers of the technical stack, and interoperability is at the core to enable that.
Oh, brilliant. Well, I've just got, David, just two final questions, and it'd be remiss of me not to turn back to your experience with Accenture and then to final words on Hyperledger and your role as chair of the board there. But turning to Accenture and to build on some of the themes you just spoke on there, maybe to share with our audience the importance of open source solutions and open source strategy for Accenture and the clients that you work with.
Yeah, so if you look at it, open source is actually at the heart of every proprietary solution that gets built, right? Developers draw from open source code bases to speed the development and to standardize the development, of any software. So open source, whether it's widely known or not, is at the core of all of the digital world. For us, it's a huge priority because it does again play out in the dynamics of clients' needs and interests as well. There's a deep importance to having a foundational level of technology that is common. The more common standards, the more common frameworks, foundations of technology that we're building upon, the more we can then put the basis of competition where it belongs, much higher in the stack, around the configuration and characterizations of services. No one should be competing at the my database is better than your database has never entered into the vernacular of a business conversation at the front end thinking about user experience, right? The impacts of database versus database, sure, maybe that, but that is, we need to, the more that we can create common underlying infrastructure, the better. And from just a practical basis, why build dozens of different proprietary versions of the same underlying core technical needs that shouldn't be the basis of competition? That's wildly inefficient. It's wildly ineffective. It's massive redundant spend. Why not build it once together in an open source manner and then focus that actual innovation investment where it counts. And then I'm going to give you one more.
I love it.
From a security perspective, right? There's been a huge focus on, where there have been some challenges, Node.js and open source, but I think it's been wildly misinterpreted, right? So every bit of software ever written has to have a security stance around the process by which you monitor, changes in the context within which it's used, and the attacker's capabilities, and that's a constant process. Would you, I think it is vastly more compelling and logical to have the code in a fully transparent, auditable fashion that anyone can review it, find those challenges, monitor it, and as long as you have those processes to constantly manage and monitor the software, we're vastly better having it in an open source context rather than having to pierce through a firewall of a proprietary system to go find whether something bad has been done or not. And so I think that's the strength of what Linux brings to the table, is that really effective, solid management of open source software. And so the governance is super important. The construct of that transparency is what enables the confidence we should all have, it's a much easier mechanism to maintain security than having to pierce through a firewall to find where there might be an issue.
I think that there's a word that especially said to build it once together. I think we need to get that expression, get it on the t-shirts, build it once together. Fantastic. I've got one final question, if I may. 9 months as chairman of the board of Hyperledger, a passionate technologist, passionate innovator, passionate evangelist for this community. If there's one thing you'd like to share for the audience to take away from the discussion we've had today, the 2 days you've experienced here so far in Dublin, what would that be?
You used a lot of words earlier, so I'm going to offer you a new one. I think the caring curiosity is key. I wasn't planning on that alliteration, but what I'm seeing happen in the hallways, and what we have to create the ability to happen more is that very that engagement, the relationship building, the knowledge sharing in a very caring manner, and to be curious, not just about your own project and what you've been passionate about building, but being curious about how could that relate to the project that's being built over there, and what could you do together, or curious about the business community and how they could use it, or curious about the feedback you're getting, maybe negative feedback, and to be open to that. And so I think caring curiosity would be what I would add.
Fantastic, David. Congratulations again. Thank you so much for being so generous with your time today and your insights. David, thank you. Enjoy the rest of your time in Dublin.
My pleasure. Thanks for the talk.
Thanks.